Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And we love having our guest speakers come on, sharing their story. In this case, he recently spoke at our Nashville signature breakfast hosted by Delta Dental of Tennessee. We're talking about Colonel Greg Gadson, a 25-year officer in the United States Army. Colonel Greg Gadson's life is a portrait of courage in the face of great adversity. In 2007, while returning from a memorial service for two soldiers from his brigade, he lost both his legs and normal use of his right arm to a roadside bomb in Iraq. We'll talk about that story. We'll talk about his life and so much more. But let's start out. Colonel Gadson, how are you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Jeremy. I'm great, and thanks for having me here. Thanks for hosting this, and it's a pleasure to see you again.
Absolutely. So you were absolutely inspiring when you talk about you speaking at our signature speaker series event in Nashville. You got like 3 standing ovations sharing your story and the lessons you've learned. Before we dive into that story, though, give us a little bit of just your background in terms of where you grew up and playing football and what led you to West Point. So give us a little bit of your early years.
Yeah, we had a couple of engagements. Obviously, the social the night before, which I didn't talk about. But I say, I hate to say that, but my life, like many of our lives, are a set of circumstances that most of us don't have control. But I feel like a lot of it is just based upon, our guile and our guts and just being able to continue. And so when I grew up, I call Chesapeake, Virginia home. That's where my parents settled when I was about 10 years old. And like many young kids, many young men, I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be a professional football player. And I could think that I put all the efforts that I could imagine and prepare myself to, go on to a college, earn a college scholarship, and then hopefully for the best and make it to the pros. And I was a pretty decent student, not the best that I could have been at the time, but certainly good enough to qualify me for school. And all-state football player, in my mind, had done all the things that I needed to do to earn a scholarship at a top school. And as it turned out, those opportunities didn't avail themselves. And I was a guy without a plan, quite honestly. And a football recruiter from West Point came to my high school to recruit another high school classmate of mine. And my coach suggested that they take a look at me, and they did, and invited me to go up. And I went to West Point. Didn't even know what it was, but all I knew and appreciated was that they were going to give me this opportunity to play football at the highest level. Honestly, Jeremy, I probably went there with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I knew that the likelihood of me having a pro career would not be facilitated by this direction. But I was fine with that. I just wanted to prove I could play with the big boys, so to speak. And so that put me on a path to West Point, where I was injured. I struggled academically, all the things that you can, all the little landmines of life. But I grew through those struggles, and I learned to push myself, learn to persevere. And I like to say hope began to build a character of just being relentless.
Let's switch over and talk about your time as a leader in the Army and with the men and women who are serving under your leadership, being responsible for them, what that's like, and then what happened with the roadside bomb in Iraq.
Right. So I graduated from West Point in '89. I was commissioned as a field artillery officer, and not long after arriving at my first assignment, I was deployed to Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And so very quickly, I got to see, the horrors, the challenges of war. And and I say horrors, just it is. I think there's no sadder thing in life when one human has to take another human's life. Um, but that's that was the profession I was in, and I learned some lessons very early on about my responsibility as a leader, and ensuring that we could always get our mission done and take care of one another. And those would be lessons that would stick with me my entire career. And I think I said this the other morning, but the irony of being responsible for young men and women that are defending our nation, but honestly, never imagining that that I would get wounded, and B, those men and women that I was responsible for would now have my life in their hands, and I'm here before you in this moment here because they in fact saved my life.
A lot of powerful storylines that are woven in that you speak about, and you talk a lot about the community coming together to really save your life. And it's the community that embraces you and gives you opportunity even to this day. Talk about community and what community means to you.
Right. Well, as you know, Jeremy, I mentioned the other morning that I often began my remarks, really with the acknowledgement that my team saved my life, because, our lives are always part of being part of something bigger than ourselves. But I replaced the team with community, because it's really my community. It's really our community. Every single one of those service members that puts a uniform on, he puts it on. He comes from a community like every one of our communities across this nation. And when our service is done, we take that uniform off. And it's the communities that take care of us when we come back, support our families when we have natural disasters. Our communities come together when when we have tremendous sacrifice. Our communities come together, and what's so powerful about cityCURRENT is that you are a community resource about helping veterans, helping people that need help, but also being a resource to I couldn't even spell the word business. I don't have a business degree. But here I am, an entrepreneur. I'm doing government contracting, and I'm contributing to our economy, and it's allowed me to continue to serve and continue to share and make a difference in a community that gave to me. It's now about me giving back.
And I think that's the cool thing, is your perspective and the fact that you're not letting what happened to you influence your ability to go and achieve at the highest levels. And so talk about the prosthetics, talk about, the activities, because you're out there now doing things that, none of us can do. Like, you're out there superhuman. So talk about some of the cool things that you're doing and experiencing right now.
As we talk about a community, it was a community 3 months after I was wounded in Vail, Colorado, that I say opened my eyes to, being able to live, being able to pursue my life. And I remember horseback riding and whitewater rafting, and so my life was not what I couldn't do, but it became about what I could do and what I could challenge myself to do. And I certainly continue to live an active lifestyle. As I was recovering, a prosthetist talked to me about wearing two powered prosthetics. The legs, these prosthetics at the time were only designed for a single above the knee amputee, and they asked if I was willing to try to wear them both, and I said, yeah. What do I got to lose? My legs are already gone, and so it was just sort of the willingness, the courage to try, never being afraid to fail, and never being afraid to get back up, and even if you were just pressing forward, and I'm very blessed and thankful that I have that kind of spirit, have that kind of the character to be willing to try, and that's that has truly been a blessing. It continues to be a blessing every day.
I know that it was a very dark time, but it turned into a really neat storyline that has really opened up a lot of doors in terms of the football side. But,
Right.
After what happened, you're in the hospital and a really powerful opportunity unveils itself for you to kind of step into the speaking world in the NFL. So talk about a little bit of that storyline that leads you all the way even to a movie role.
Right. Well, many of my teammates came to visit me. My teammates from West Point, and Mike Sullivan was one of them, who at the time happened to be be the wide receivers coach for the New York Giants. And I don't know what he saw in me. I mean, I can never give Mike and the Giants enough credit for seeing something in me and believing in me. But as their 2007-2008 season started, they were 0-2 in the hole, coming to play the Washington Redskins, or Washington football team, who were undefeated. And Mike, Mike literally had the idea of me, chatting with the team, and so he asked me to do it, and I said sure. I'm not a public speaker, not in the habit of speaking to groups or organizations outside the military, but my teammate asked me to do it, and I figured I would do my best. So as fate would have it, I did share share a little bit of my story, which I'm sharing here this morning, and the Giants would end up winning the game, and it was really the first of 11 consecutive road victories, which I still believe is a record that culminated in the Giants beating the undefeated Patriots in Super Bowl 42. And so I'm not only the owner of one Super Bowl ring, but two. Well, as fate would have it, Peter Berg, a native of New York, a longtime New York Giants fan, and whose father was a former Marine, loved our military, and he called me one day and asked me if I was willing to be in a movie, and I'm kind of like Mikey nowadays, and I said sure, why not, and eventually got permission from the Department of Defense, and 4 or 5 months later, I'm filming in a major motion picture. So, it may sound Pollyannish, it's almost a fairy tale, if you will, but it's and it is. I can pinch myself, but I mean, to me, it's not so much of the incredible experiences I've had. It's really been about never giving up, never quitting, and that's my message. That's my encouragement. That's my challenge for us to live every day like it's our last, because tomorrow is not promised. And I've lived that. I've seen that, and in a strange way, you might say it's been a gift that I've been given, that's empowered me to live my best life.
Absolutely. You're also too in NCIS, so people can see you on NCIS coming up in the seasons ahead, and that's a cool storyline. And then you mentioned obviously being an entrepreneur, and so give us a little teaser on the business side and some of the things you're doing as a business owner.
So as a business owner, I'm a service-based government contractor, supporting primarily our Department of Defense, but I've got contracts outside of DOD as well. We're working with the Veterans Administration, with appointment schedulers, helping veterans get appointments outside the VA system. We're working with really to the gist of my company is really about partnerships, Jeremy. It's finding and creating partnerships where I'm able to work with organizations that have expertise that I may not have. I have access and networks that might allow me to get into some places that they might not be getting, and so it becomes a marriage, a partnership of opportunity, and we all win. And I always say 100% of nothing is nothing. So I can want it all, I can have it all, I can want it all, but if I'm working, if I don't have an opportunity, I don't have anything. So we've been able to, with my partner, we've been able to build a business over the last 7 years or so, or 8 years since I retired, and we're trying to make a difference.
Wrap up with words of encouragement when you look at the, kind of finishing out this year with success, but looking ahead for 2023. Give us some words of encouragement.
I just like to say, be where you are, be in the moment. And if you can truly do that, then you have a chance of being your best. And that's all we can ever expect out of ourselves. Our attitude is what carries the day. And, every day that we have on this earth, it's a blessing. So it's our chance to go out and make the best of it.
One more thing, what would your words of encouragement be for especially the business leaders and business community to really support efforts to help veterans?
Our veterans are us. They come from our communities, and we come back to our communities when we take the uniform off. And I challenge you to take advantage of that talent, of that experience. It not only makes you a patriot, but it'll make your organization better by pulling in that wise veteran experience.
We'll wrap up with contact information, your website. Where do we go to follow your efforts and learn more about your business?
So the name of my companies is Patriot Strategies, LLC. So all one word as a website, Patriot Strategies, LLC. You'll get a glimpse of some of the things that we're involved in and doing. And if you're a company that's got some that's perhaps not familiar with federal contracting, but have a skill set that the federal government might like to have, then look us up, give us a shout, and see maybe we can find an opportunity to work together.
Well, Colonel Greg Gadson, thank you for your service, your sacrifice, everything you're doing to lift our community. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. Have a great one.